stated in my last video linked below about TPT's new ranking system, I intend to use this information to see how I do month to month. Not so much compared to other sellers, but to TPT as a whole. If you want to see the three-step system I'm going to use to apply this information, then stick around. Hello everyone, my name is Sherry from Rolling Acres Education. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back if this is not your first time. And I plan not to try to not say anything about this, but since I had to pause my video to sneeze, I'm just going to tell you that I was really sick for the last several days, had bronchitis, and I'm just now getting over it. So my voice might kind of give out or sound a little funny, and if so, I apologize, or if there's some awkward editing in this, then you know why. As I said, when I got my rankings the first time, I was in the 99th percentile and I think 133rd store. And I'd made about $3,000. The next month I went down to 2,300 and my percentile was 98, and I think it was 1722 was my store ranking. So my sales went down, so did my ranking. That means that TPT didn't necessarily have a bad month, I just did. So what we want to use this information for is kind of to see, all right, my rankings went down, my sales went down. That's me. But if your rankings stay about the same and your sales go down, then probably you're not having as good a month as TPT as a whole. Now we know there are some months when TPT doesn't make as much money as others, June and July. If your sales go down in June and July, then you know that's just kind of the norm for TPT sellers. We just don't make as much money because teachers are not in school. But I think it's going to be interesting this year to see, so how's my ranking going to be? I'm really interested to see that because it kind of tells me maybe I could be making more money than I actually am. So what I want to do in this video is tell you the three things that I looked at when I noticed that I had some months that I wasn't doing quite as well as I thought I should have. Particularly 2 months that I want to discuss specifically. One was the very first August that I was a TPT seller, and then the other one is January as a whole. So I started my store in September of 2021, and so it was almost a full year before that August back to school sale and all those things that go on in August happened. So you know, I'd had my store for a year, and I had made $500 and then $600, and then in May I made almost $600. And so I could see that I was doing better and better and better until June and July. So I thought, man, August is it. In August, I'm going to hit that 4 figures, and I'm just going to be so excited. And I was just like, this is going to be great. And so August rolled around, and I made $452 or something like that, and the sale was awful. The first sale I made less than $10. Now, fortunately, I had come to my senses before I got too discouraged and realized, you know, why do you think that you're going to do so well in August? And so the first thing you need to do is look at why you're possibly not doing very well in a certain month. And so I thought, okay, there's a lot of people buying back to school resources. Do you have any back to school resources in your store? And I'm like, no. People like to buy bundles at this time of year. They've put them on their wish list, and they've been waiting for this time to buy bundles. And I didn't have hardly any bundles. I don't know if I had any big bundles at all. I had a couple of 2 to 4 resource bundles, but no big bundles. Also, a lot of people promote the sale through their email lists, through Pinterest, through their blog, through all these other things, notes to followers and all that. I didn't have very many followers at the time. And so I thought, I haven't sent out an email about this. And I just started realizing all the things that help these other sellers make a lot of money in August. I didn't do any of those things. I didn't have any bundles. I didn't have any back to school resources. And I didn't have an email list. I didn't send notes to followers or anything like that. So why did I think that I should have made a lot of money during August? So now there was some of those things that I couldn't do anything about right away. Like I couldn't have a huge email list or a huge number of followers or anything like that. And I didn't really have money to spend on marketing. So I had to think, what can I do to make more money in August? And there was 2 things I thought of that I could do immediately, and that was to create some back to school resources and to make some bundles. So that's what I did. And this was like at the very beginning of August. So I spent hours and hours and hours, totally ignored the rest of my life, but it was okay because I took a break afterwards, but I put in hour upon hour making a back to school resource bundle for science. And it was like the things that every year you have to teach certain things about science, you know, the scientific method and the engineering and design process and those kind of things that you have to teach at the beginning of the year. And so I made a packet of resources, and so that took care of back to school and a bundle. And then I also did some other bundles. And at the end of the year, at the end of the month, they had another back to school sale, and like I didn't do huge, but the first sale I made like less than $10, and that one I think I made around 50 to 60. So that was, you know, 5 times what I made the beginning of the month. So what I did was I asked myself, number one, why am I not making sales during this month? So ask yourself, why are you not making sales during this particular month? I said before, you know, June and July we know because TPT does not have a lot of sales in. But think about your niche. Think about what kind of things sell in your niche during that time. Look at what other people are selling during that time. Just take a really deep dive into what kind of things sell during that month that you're not doing so well in. And then the obvious step number 2 is to make some of those resources. And now here's the thing. People tend to think seasonal resources. Okay, I'm not doing well in December, so let me make some Christmas resources. Or I'm not doing well in November, so let's make some Veterans Day and some Thanksgiving. And that's a good idea. Absolutely great idea. But don't forget, seasonal can also refer to certain things in your niche that sell at different times. Now, this is probably a lot more clear in like math and social studies. That's more sequential. But even English language arts and science have certain things. You know, most of the schools that I've been associated with teach physical sciences at the beginning of the year, like motion, electromagnetism, and waves and things like that. And they have a certain order. And so you can kind of figure out what things sell during those months. Now, here is a great way to find out what teachers are working on, is to join a Facebook group for your niche. Like I'm in a couple of middle school science Facebook groups, and I can get ideas of what these teachers need by just reading their comments, reading their posts and things. And you can just go right in there and say, hey guys, I'm just wondering, what are you all going to be teaching during November? Or what are you going to be teaching during April? What are you going to be doing during April? What kind of things do you do in your classroom during April? And just ask. And I'm telling you, they love, you know, I love when somebody asks something like that. I love to give them information and help them. You can even make a little poll. If you kind of have an idea of what kind of things they might be doing, hey, do you teach this, this, or this? And then you can leave an other. And so just go in those Facebook groups and say, hey, what kind of things are you doing during this month? And then use that to think about what kind of things you can make for those teachers during that month that will sell. Number 3 may be the most important of all. And the third thing you may have to do is just accept it, okay? You might just have to accept the fact that you're not going to make a lot of sales during a certain month. I mean, I've accepted that about June and July. I just know that those are going to be lower months. And the second month that I have dealt with is January. I've sold on TPT for 3 Januaries, and all 3 Januaries my sales have gone December, January, back up in February. Three years in a row. For some reason, I just don't make a lot of sales in January, and I really didn't need that ranking information. I already heard people say that January tends to be a really good month for TPT, and so I was like, why am I not making sales in TPT? Well, obviously I make a lot of money off seasonal resources. I love making seasonal resources, and Martin Luther King is about it. And a lot of like the federal holidays don't sell as much, like, you know, Veterans Day, Memorial Day, Labor Day, and things like that don't sell as much as like Christmas and St. Patrick's Day and Halloween and things like that. So, and I do have a New Year's, but a lot of those sell before. I sell a lot of New Year's Day resources, especially into January. And Martin Luther King, I mean, I do well, but not like compared to Christmas or Halloween. So I also have a genetics resource that does very well during that time, but for some reason, I just don't have a lot of resources that sell during that time. And guess what I've decided to do? Accept it. Just like, okay, January is not going to be my best month. I'm getting better every month. The first January I made $50. The second one I made $800, and then this January I made $2,300. That's a huge jump. So I'm improving in January. It's just not going to be as good as the other months. And guess what? even after June and July, you're going to have a month that's going to be your lowest of those last months. That's just the way it works, okay? No matter how much you sell, one of your months is going to be the lowest month of those remaining 10 months. And you may just have to say, look, I accept this. And go to a month where you're making a lot of sales and think, hey, what can I do maybe to even increase this more and to make up for that, okay? This is one thing, a little pet peeve of mine, so just bear with me, but this making goals to improve every single month, your first year TPT, you're setting yourself up because it could happen, but it may not happen. And that doesn't mean that you're not getting better. It just means that maybe your resources are more tuned to certain months. And so I don't like setting money goals. I mean, I like setting money milestones. Oh, when I make $1,000, I want to do this, or when I, whatever. But just be careful about thinking that you're going to increase every month, because it's most likely not going to happen, okay? Now, for some it may. It didn't for me. I increased from September to October. I increased from October to November, and November to December. But then I went way down. I made $178 in December, and then only like $50 in January, but then I went back up to $278. So I'm just saying that just don't worry about it. If you are overall doing well, if you're improving year to year, then don't worry. If you have a bad month and you've sat down, and that's what I do with January, I just really couldn't think of anything that I thought was worth the time. Like, is it better for me to sit here and try to figure out what I can do for January, or is it better for me to just go ahead and work on other months that I'm doing better in and let them make up for January, okay? So if you are having a month that seems to be either just your lowest month that you just can't seem to get up, or you're doing not so well in a month that should be a month that everybody's doing well, then ask yourself, what sells during this month in my niche? Go to a Facebook group, ask around, ask other TPT sellers, hey, what sells during this month? And find out what sells. Then if there are things that you can make for that time, then make them. But if there's not, if you've done everything you can, then ask yourself, is it really worth my time? Or would my time better be invested in getting my sales up overall? Working on my views overall, working on my email list, working on my marketing. Is this really, worrying about January, worth my time? Now, August it was worth it for me to really sit down and take some time and think, why am I not making money in August? It was very clear to me that there were some obvious things that I could have been doing, but in January it's just not. It's just not. I mean, I just don't think it's worth my time to sit and worry about January. I've just accepted the fact January is not going to be the greatest month for me, but it can be better each year. So just give yourself some grace, and remember, you've got to think about what's really worth my time. What is going to really push the needle forward on my business? And sitting around and worrying about something you can't do anything about is not going to do it. Ask yourself, where am I making the money? And what can I do to just make up for the difference? And just remember that you've got this, God's got you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.